So in this segment, I want to ask you, how the hell did the SNP lose the recent by-election in Hamilton when this is the quality of candidate Labour were putting up? This type of guy.
You're probably speaking to quite a lot of older people. Are you getting any anger from them
So
that
this is before the U-turn of the winter fuel allowance, but the election was before the U-turn as well.
Labour have scrapped their winter fuel allowance?
Yes, there is
What do you
some
say to
concern.
them?
Well, there's some concern, and Scottish Labour have said from day one that we will reinstate the winter fuel allowance.
But at Westminster you've scrapped it, so again you'd have to mitigate what your government did at Westminster.
And this is what I've said will always be Labour's biggest problem when it comes to so many things. Like, if they win that majority in Holyrood, are they gonna, raise tuition fees, for example? Are they gonna, get rid of the mitigation the SNP have put in on the two-child benefit cap? Things like that. Things that are, that are, I think, popular in Scotland. How much are they gonna cut the assistance that the SNP have either put in place or kept in place before the austerity years?
But there were hard decisions to be made when the Labour government came into power in Westminster. There was a.
So you think they were right to scrap it?
There was a 20
Do you think they were right
billion.
to scrap it?
There was a 20
Do you think they were right to scrap
pound
it?
black hole.
Do you think they were right to scrap the winter fuel payment for pensioners?
The hard decisions to take.
Do you think they were right?
Well, there were very hard decisions to.
Yeah, but oh come on, bro! Like, this is a painful interview.
I think they were
This guy's so dumb.
right to do it. It was a hard decision. Do you think they made the right decision?
Well, they take it. They took it based on the decisions, the circumstances they'd inherited.
So you backed them. You backed the Chancellor. You backed the Prime Minister on it,
They had very hard decisions
and
to
you
make.
backed them.
I totally think that the decisions they had to make were based on the previous government's mismanagement of the country.
And you backed them on it.
He knows he can't answer that question. It's such a good question. He can't, because he can't say he does, because obviously the winter fuel allowance is more impactful in Scotland because it's colder up there, and he can't say he doesn't back it because then he's undermining his party. I mean, it's such an easy kind of setup.
The on the doorsteps here, people are.
Yeah, but you backed the government. You backed the Prime Minister and the Chancellor. You can just tell me yes or no.
Well, I wasn't involved in the decision, and this is a Scottish Parliament election, right?
So the question is going to be: he's saying he's going to mitigate it with what money? With what money is he going to mitigate the change? Would he have mitigated the change with? That's one of the follow-up questions I'd ask.
If I was a member of Parliament then, I would have based it on the facts I had in front of me at the time.
So you would have cut it then? It's the most ridiculous interview. And then, I don't understand how these guys did so well. The SNP dropped off, which is understandable given that their leader has less charisma than Keir Starmer, let's be honest. Who, no one, the SNP are in the wind effectively. But you got this absolute buffoon who's won a by-election. I don't think it's him. It doesn't necessarily have to be him, but this is the quality of candidate they're putting up, right? And somehow they've won. It's a very narrow win. Turnout was very low. But again, rule one of politics is get your base out, get your votes out. And the SNP failed to do that. You look at the drop-off, 16% drop-off. It's crazy business. Look at Reform. They've spawned onto the map. They're on the 30% figure. The vote was run by just over 30%, 31. It's crazy, and they somehow won. And I saw people getting mad about this headline: why Reform was the other big winner in the Hamilton by-election. I think they were. They've shown themselves to be a force in this seat, which is, I think, quite unionist. If you look at a lot of the votes, it's gone way in the majority for the Unionist Party, because there's only one Independence Party that's running here. But when you look at which ones have done well here, the Lib Dems, there's 500 votes, so you lose the deposit on that. But you got the Conservatives on 11, 6% of the vote, Reform on 26, Labour on 31. There is a strong unionist sentiment within the seat of Hamilton. You can see by the fact that Labour had it for a long time to switch to SNP, but it's not the biggest. It's not the biggest majority in the world. It's not the biggest vote percentage win in the world. You're talking around between 10 to 20%. But I don't think it's a ton of votes per se. But I just don't get it. But I saw people mad at this headline, but I think it's a fair headline. The problem is the BBC's editorial slant is very unfair. But I think the SNP have got to get rid of Swinney. They really got to get rid of John Swinney as fast as they can and get someone in who is a much more competent leader. I was sad to see Hamza Yusuf go, I'll be honest. But their best bet unfortunately, is an MP in Westminster. That's Stephen Flynn. He would be the person I would pick. If I had a choice, but unfortunately he's not. He's not an MSP. I don't see. I guess the way that it's set up, with First Minister's questions or whatever, I don't see the issue with having Flynn as leader of the party. I'll be honest. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.